as you look back over the last couple of weeks?
I thought we had a great camp. I didn't know if they had as much fire this morning as I would have liked them to have. We didn't meet last night, and gave them the evening off, and I think they lost a little bit of focus this morning. But when it was all said and done, we got some good work in. But I thought it was a heck of a camp. We've held our number one and number two quarterback out for the last 3 or 4 days, most of the reps, obviously with Mar's knee, and then Henry has really been under the weather. And I think it's a good sign that we can come out with what's on the depth chart list as the number 3 and 4 quarterback right now, Turbush and Sean Robinson, and still be able to execute our offense. And we couldn't do that at hardly any point in time last season. So even though there was some struggles last year with all the injuries at the quarterback spot, it looks like it's paid some dividends to this upcoming football team with depth and experience at that key quarterback position.
If you had to play a game today, would Henry play?
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah, he's had a fever or something. He's been through camp, and he's felt bad for too long. Okay. And appreciate him suffering and sucking it up. But so we just shut it down the last couple of days on him and allow him to recover and recuperate, so we can be full speed and feel good on Tuesday. Rob will play with his finger cut off or fever or whatever you ask him to do, but we don't have to ask him to be the suffering servant every day of his football career. So we shut it down for a couple of days, and he'll be ready to roll on Tuesday, and we feel really good about him.
Just with some of the questions you had coming into camp, really at the defensive end spot, do you feel coming out of camp you've got a majority of the questions answered and maybe some rotation set up there?
I think so. I think Gerald Gooden has progressed. I didn't know what we'd get out of him, or where he'd be at, really. He was a heck of a player 2 seasons ago. Was a proven pass rusher in the games, and then last year, his effectiveness was negated some with a sports hernia, and he wasn't near as productive. And so he's really important to us because he has been a proven pass rusher in the games, and I think he's where he needs to be. He's bigger and he's stronger than he was the last couple of years, and I think he's healthy now. So I expect great things from Gerald Gooden. And then Ryan Russell's a guy that we redshirted last year, and physically he brings some things to the table. He's big. He's probably 6'5" and about 260-something pounds, and very strong from the waist down. He's still a little bit of youth, to him, and not have played in any college games, but he's a big physical defensive end. And then getting Robert Macy back. He had a hamstring coming in at a camp and missed the first part of camp. Those 3 guys would be our top 3 ends, and we could use those guys in a rotation. We've looked at Ryan Isaacs out there some. He's probably better suited to play inside, but he can help us some out on the outside if we need him to. And then I like the potential of Jelani Phillips. He's a ways away knowing how to play the position, but he's a talent. So we come out of camp with the Gerald Gooden, Ryan Russell, and Robert Macy, our 3 ends, and some other guys that still could help us some at that spot as well.
See Isaac, maybe a guy that floats back and forth between end and tackle?
Well, right now he's probably in our top 3 or 4 defensive tackles. You have Kawan Short and Bruce Gaston. Those 2 are our top defensive tackles. And then Brandon Taylor has really come on the second half of camp. He needed to get himself in shape, a little bit better shape, and I think he's practiced himself into shape, and he's a tough guy. Those 3 guys, as of today, are probably our top 3 defensive tackles, and then Ryan Isaacs and Kevin Panfile will play that spot as well. And we've had Ryan on the outside more throughout the course of camp, but he's probably more productive on the inside. He can play both, but he's probably better suited to play inside.
Who are the freshmen that you think could have an impact?
Well, I like this class, particularly when you add the kids that aren't here yet. Carlos and then Randy. They add some things to the class, and we'll get them back, which is good. But there have been some pleasant, not necessarily surprises, but some guys that we're excited about. I look at the big running back, Brandon Cottom, and I think he can help us some this year. He's 250-something pounds and very athletic and really smart. We have him on some of the special teams right now. He's more full-backish in some ways, but he has some one-back skills to him. He'll play some this year. Whether or not he'll beat out anybody in our 2 deep at the running back position, I don't know. We're pretty strong at the running back spot right now. But I think he can help us on special teams, and we can start getting him ready to play. So Brandon Cottom has stuck out in a lot of ways. Raheem Mostert, he came in really highly touted by our staff, somebody that we thought a lot of in the recruiting process, and he did very well down the state track meet. Took 3rd in the 100 meters and 3rd in the 300, and is really fast and strong and tough, and he can help us kickoff return wise. He can help us at the wide receiver position this year. He's one of our faster, more physical skill players. Both of the young guys that we brought in the secondary, Taylor Richards and Frankie Williams, they both have done very well. Taylor's probably a little bit further along. He's played some at this corner spot and some at the safety spot. It seems to be picking it up really well. Frankie's a great talent. He could see the field possibly this year. But Taylor, I think, maybe have a little bit of an edge as far as working himself into the two deep, possibly by game time. Armstead Williams, very talented linebacker, a true freshman, has decent size. I think he's 6'2" and some change, about 220 pounds, and runs real well. Seems to have a good football IQ. Doesn't know everything to do yet in our system, but he seems to be picking it up really fast, and he could work his way into the two deep and get some playing time. So I think there's still about a half a dozen guys in this class that can see the field for us. I like everyone that we've signed, and they've all shown up and done some good things. Shane McKeskey, been pleased with him. He's picked it up very well the second part of camp. He's tall and he's real fast and real smart. He could end up working himself into some rotation possibly. So time will tell, but some of those guys will play.
You did a lot over this 2 weeks of this training camp to make sure your guys stayed as healthy as possible. Just how do you feel like you came out of that? Do you feel like some of the things that you did were worth scaling back to make sure you were as healthy as possible?
Well, they have to be worth doing because we've already done them. Okay, so absolutely, I believe it 100%. But again, I mean, the proof's in the numbers. I think we had maybe 7 or 8 guys out today. Guys that are in really good shape that were out today are Rob Henry and Justin Siller. They'll be fine in a couple of days. And guys that'll be back, we think, pretty soon would be guys like Gabe Holmes. Who's been out with a hamstring, nursing a little bit, but we think we'll get him back. The same with Robert Marr. We think we'll get him back, sometime in the near future. And the same thing with Mike Lee. And then guys that may be out for a little while right now are E.J. Johnson. He'll be out probably for about half the season, and Gavin Roberts. Okay, so those are the 8 guys that we had out today, and only 2 look like they're going to be long-term situations. And those guys that we're going to get back are all really important to us. So we scaled back on the tackling part of it. We're going to have to run to the ball and fit up and get it done. But we cut back on the tackling for a reason, so we could salvage our ball carriers. And then we were getting as many guys injured on the defensive side of the ball when we were going full speed live tackling. We have tackled some the last couple of days in practice, but didn't tackle our top backs or our top ball carriers. We put some down the line ball carriers in the huddle behind the 1 and 2 offensive line and let the defense go after them. So we got some tackling in, but we're not going to tackle our top ball carriers very much. So I'm glad we've done what we've done. We're a healthier football team. I'm assuming we're going to be in a position to still tackle well, but at least we have bodies to do it with, and that's what's most important to our football team right now, is having a lot of good, healthy bodies to start the season off with.
I would imagine that seeing Ralph back out there was probably one of the highlights of this training camp.
It makes me very happy. We're a lot better football team with Ralph Bolden on board, and I really like what I'm seeing out of Akeem Shavers. He's a good player. He's tough, very, very tough, real physical, loves to play football, never seems to slow down or wear down, which is really important at the running back position. And then, again, I really like the production and the progress of Jared Crank and Reggie Pegram. So I think we're pretty salty in the backfield. I think we're physical in the backfield. You can look at all of our running backs, and I think you take all those guys again, and then that's a good sign.
Any update on Kenny Plu, whether you'll have him this season?
I think the things are progressing. Again, he has a list of things that he has to get done before we can feel good about considering to reinstate him. And when he gets those things done, then we'll sit down and assess exactly where he's at and make a decision. But he's still alive, but not on board yet.
If you don't play him, or if he's not part of what you're doing this year, how is it the right side of your line then? What are you thinking in that regard?
It's shaped up very well, and we've moved on anyway because Kenny was limited on the amount of reps that we were allowing him to get towards the second half of camp. We wanted to get ourselves in position to move on with or without him, and the only way to do that was to get some new guys in there and get them to work. And I really like what I'm seeing out of Justin Kitchens. He's an outstanding athlete. He's not as heavy as some people's offensive tackles, but he's probably quicker and faster than most. He's about 6'4" and a half, about 282 pounds, and runs really, really fast. And he's picked it up very well. He's a low rep guy with a good football IQ and a real upgrade as an athlete at any right tackle. For any team at right tackle, he's an outstanding athlete. He reminds me a lot of a guy I coached at Louisville named Roman Oben that played a bunch of years in the league. I think they're very, very similar. So Justin Kitchens is playing right tackle, and we have Nick Mondek that slid down to the right guard position. And I think, personally, I think he's better suited for guard. He's very stout and very strong. You can get down underneath those big defensive tackles and roll him out there and hold his ground. And those two guys on the right can really run. Mondek runs very well, probably runs 5 flat at about 300 pounds. He benches about 500. And Justin Kitchens probably runs faster than that, about 280-something pounds. So we're very fast on the right. We had an ankle injury early in camp to Peters Dry, and that forced Ricky Schmeig in there at the center position, and I really like him in there. He's a thicker, stronger guy, particularly with his wrist in his hands, and he holds up better, fitting up on the 300-something pound defensive tackles or nose tackles, and I think he's tailor-made for the center position, and that allows us to take Peters Dry and put him at left guard, or switch him and Ricky. Peters at center and Ricky at left guard, but both of those guys are good players. Ricky, I really like him at center, and Peters Dry runs very well. He's a very athletic guy. I think he can play all the way across the front at every position on the offensive line. He's proven he can play center. He's proven he can play guard. We've been working him some at the tackle position to give us some maybe false depth of a guy that's played in the games, and he looks really good at all the spots. And I haven't been around many guys that can play all 5 in my years of coaching the offensive line. And then obviously Dennis Kelly has that left tackle spot nailed down. Some other guys that have come on and really done well in camp that can help us this year is Eric McDaniel. We moved over from defense. He's a 300-pounder that can run. We have him working at the guard spot. He's only about 6 foot tall, but he's very strong and very fast. Trevor Foy, his shoulders are holding up okay right now. He had shoulder surgery back in the winter, and he's holding up okay. He's tall and scrappy and very athletic. And then I really like the progress of Cody Davis, who hasn't played a whole lot, but he really improved over the course of camp. So I think we're further along on the offensive line than we have been from an athletic standpoint and an experience standpoint with or without Kenny Plouffe.
So if you started the game tomorrow, just to make sure we're right here, left to right, you'd go Kelly, Dry, Schmeig, Mondek, Kitchens?
Yep, and those guys can move. And they've all played in the games with the exception of Kitchens. And he's an upgrade as an athlete. If I had to rate all the offensive linemen I coached in the last 25 years, he'd be in that upper probably 10% from an athletic standpoint. He's an outstanding athlete to have on the offensive line.
On a more broader perspective, just given what's happening at Ohio State and Miami these last couple of months, can you talk about the state or your perception of college football and how it stands right now?
Well, there's a lot of great things happening in college football that we don't get to brag about a whole lot. The young men that I'm working with, I think, are what's right with college football. Obviously, you have to have some awareness about you, and it throws some warning signals out when you see so many programs that may not be going about business in the right way. But I stick, to it that it's not that hard to make good decisions and do the right things, and that's what we're going to hang our hat on here, obviously.
What gives you that confidence that Purdue can stay above the fray?
The people we have on our football team. It starts at the top. We do things the right way. Myself, the assistant coaches, our support staff, our athletic administration, and they insist on it. It's the Purdue way, and we make our progress with work ethic and want to, and that's not going to change. And again, it's not. I don't think it's out of line to expect everyone to make good decisions and do the right things when it comes to their football. So I don't anticipate us having any issues. Again, it starts at the top, and I think our players adhere to it. We're in good shape.
You had a chance to talk to the team about the new rule, especially the celebration rule or the taunting rule because did you ever find out, like, when Robert Marr dove in the end zone last year?
That would have been a penalty.
That would have been a penalty.
Right.
I mean, is that
absolutely.
an example where you may show the guys, like, if you do this,
Right.
it's going to take a touchdown off the
Well,
ball?
we have the officials coming in Monday to meet with the staff tomorrow. Today's Sunday, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, tomorrow morning. It's taken us this long to get them in because we've got camp going on. But there's not a whole lot of things that are any different. The penalties are a little bit different. You don't do somersaults into the end zone, and you don't do choreographed demeaning dances in the end zone. Nothing's really changed. The repercussions are a little bit different, so you have to be smarter. But that's just the way it goes in life. Nothing's really changed. Just the repercussions are a lot different. So we'll use that adage when we talk with our football team, and I don't see any issues.
Tell Ralph to stay away from Purdue Pete.
To stay Ralph, to keep Ralph away from the mascot, or mascot away from Ralph, whatever it takes. It's really unbelievable in some ways. But you got to do what you got to do. We won't have any problem with that.
Thanks, Coach.